lockdown bell rang. Not the fire alarm. Not the regular school bell. The lockdown bell. That sharp, stuttering buzz that cuts through everything like broken glass scraping against metal. And then the screaming started. I was standing at my locker when it happened. Just standing there, wrestling with my jam combination lock. Frustrated because I couldn't get the stupid thing to open and I was going to be late for English. The hallway was full, packed with bodies moving between classes, backpacks bumping shoulders, voices layered over voices in that familiar chaos that always happened between third and fourth period. Then the lockdown bell rang. Just like that. No warning. No announcement over the intercom. No voice saying, "Teachers and students, we are now entering a lockdown drill." Nothing. Just that sound. That awful stuttering buzz that made your teeth hurt. For maybe 2 seconds, nobody moved. We all just stood there, frozen, looking at each other with confused half-smiles, like maybe this was some kind of mistake. Maybe someone hit the wrong button in the office. Maybe. Then someone screamed. Not a playful scream. Not the kind of scream you hear when someone jumps out to scare their friend or when a spider drops from the ceiling. This was different. This scream had terror in it. Real animal terror. The kind that makes your stomach drop and your skin go cold because your body recognizes it before your brain does. The scream came from somewhere down the hall, near the science wing, and it was high and ragged and it didn't stop. Then other voices joined it, shouting, running footsteps, dozens of them, thundering toward us. "Get inside! Get inside now!" That was Mr. Harriman, the biology teacher, and I'd never heard him sound like that before. His voice cracked on the word "now," went up an octave, and suddenly everyone was moving. The hallway erupted. Students ran in every direction. Locker doors slammed. Someone dropped their books, and they scattered across the floor, and people trampled right over them. I saw Jenny Martinez fall. Saw 3 people step on her backpack before someone finally pulled her up. The screaming got louder, closer. I couldn't see where it was coming from. The hallway curved near the gym entrance, and whatever was happening was around that corner, but the sound, God, the sound was getting closer every second. Move. Move. Mrs. Chin appeared in the doorway of room 214, her arms stretched wide, herding students inside like she was gathering chickens before a storm. Her face was pale. Her hands were shaking. I ran toward her. So did everyone else near me, maybe 15, 20 students all converging on that one doorway at the same time, pushing, shoving, because the lockdown bell was still ringing and the screaming was still getting closer, and nobody knew what was happening, but we all knew we had to get inside. I made it through the door. Barely. My shoulder hit the frame hard enough to bruise, but I was inside, and people were still pouring behind me. Then I heard it. A voice. Close. Right outside in the hallway. "Please. Please let me in. Somebody." Mrs. Chin slammed the door. The lock clicked. The voice outside got cut off mid-word, but the screaming didn't stop. It was muffled now, coming to the walls, through the door, and it was everywhere. The whole school felt like it was screaming. "Lights off," Mrs. Chin said. Her voice shook. "Lights off. Now. Everyone away from windows." Someone hit the light switch. The classroom dropped into shadows, not complete darkness, because the windows let in strips of gray afternoon light, but dark enough that we became shapes instead of people. "Under the desks," Mrs. Chin whispered. "Get under the desks. Be quiet. Be quiet." We moved like sleepwalkers, like this wasn't real, Like maybe if we followed the lockdown drill procedures exactly the way we'd practiced, this would turn out to be just another drill. But it wasn't a drill. Drills didn't sound like this. I crawled under a desk in the back corner, next to Marcus Webb and Olivia Chun. No relation to the teacher. Marcus was breathing hard, almost hyperventilating. Olivia had her phone out. The screen brightness turned all the way down, her thumbs flying across the keyboard. The lockdown bell finally stopped ringing. The silence that replaced it was worse, because we could hear everything now. The screaming, still going, muffled and distant but constant, like someone left a horror movie playing in another room. Footsteps, running, dozens of them, echoing through the hallways, doors slamming, bang, 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 like dominoes falling. And underneath it all, a sound I couldn't identify at first, a rhythmic thumping, heavy and deliberate. Thump, thump, thump. What is that? Marcus whispered. Shut up, someone hissed from across the room. The thumping got louder, closer. Mrs. Chin stood frozen by the door, one hand pressed flat against it, like she was holding it shut by sheer force of will. Her other hand covered her mouth. In the dim light, I could see her shoulders trembling. Then came the banging, not the thumping from before. This was different. This was something pounding on a door. On our door? No. Nearby. Next door, maybe. Room 216. Bang, bang, bang. Let me in. Oh, God, please let me in. A boy's voice, high with panic. I recognize it. Jason Teller, sophomore on the basketball team. I'd seen him in the hallway not 5 minutes ago, laughing with his friends. The banging continued, fists against metal. Desperate, frantic. Please, please. He's coming. The banging stopped. Jason's voice cut off. The screaming didn't. Someone in our classroom started crying. Quiet, choked sobs that they tried to muffle with their hands. Then someone else. Then someone else. It spread like a virus until half the room was crying and Mrs. Chin was whispering, "Quiet! Quiet! Please be quiet!" over and over like a prayer. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, hand shaking so badly, I almost dropped it. Text from Mom, "Are you okay? School on the news. Answer me now." Text from Dad, "Where are you?" Text from my sister, "I'm scared what's happening." Text from Sarah Cho, "Lockdown real. Someone has gone. Stay hidden." Text from unknown number, "Active shooter at Jefferson High avoid area." The phone screen blurred. My hands were shaking too hard to type. I managed to text Mom, "Room 214 hiding safe." I didn't know if I was safe. Nothing felt safe. The lockdown bell had rung, and the screaming had started, and now we were trapped in the dark waiting for what? Footsteps in the hallway. Heavy, slow, deliberate. Thump, thump, thump. Everyone in the classroom went completely still. Even the crying stopped. We all held our breath, listening. The footsteps came closer. I could see the gap under the door, maybe an inch of space between the door and the floor. Light from the hallway spilled through that gap, and as the footsteps approached, I saw a shadow. Two shadows. Feet. Someone was standing right outside our door. Mrs. Chin backed away from the door slowly, her hand still covering her mouth, her eyes wide and white in the darkness. The door handle rattled. My heart stopped. The handle rattled again. Turned, but the lock held. A voice came through the door. Low, muffled. I couldn't make out the words. Then the shadow moved. The footsteps continued down the hall. Thump, thump, thump. More screaming. Farther away now. Somewhere on the second floor, maybe, or the gym. Sounds echoed weird in the school, bounced off lockers and tile floors until you couldn't tell where anything was coming from. Time stopped meaning anything. We waited in the dark. Minutes stretched into hours. Or maybe it was only minutes. I don't know. My phone said 10:47 when the lockdown bell first rang. Now it said 10:53. 6 minutes. It felt like 6 years. Marcus was rocking back and forth under his desk, his arms wrapped around his knees. Olivia had given up on her phone. She just stared at the wall, tears running down her face in silence. Across the room, Tyler Kent was praying, actually praying, whispering under his breath, "Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name." Someone else threw up. The sound was wet and horrible in the quiet. The smell hit a moment later, sharp and acidic. Mrs. Chin didn't move, didn't tell him it was okay or ask if they needed help. She just stood there, staring at the door, waiting. We were all waiting. More footsteps, not the heavy ones from before. These were different, multiple sets, moving fast, and voices, adult voices commanding. Clear, room secure. Second floor clear, moving to third. Police, that was police. Hope flickered in my chest. Just a tiny spark, but it was there. The screaming had stopped. When had it stopped? I didn't know. Somewhere in the endless waiting, the screaming had faded away, and I hadn't even noticed. My phone buzzed again. Text from Sarah. "Police here. Still in lockdown. Don't move." The intercom crackled to life. We all jumped. Marcus let out a small, strangled sound. Static hissed through the speakers. Then a voice. Principal Wallace. But he sounded wrong. His voice was tight and thin and shaky, like he was reading from a script someone had shoved into his hands. "Attention students and staff. The immediate threat has been, we are working with local law enforcement to ensure remain in lockdown until further notice. Do not leave your classrooms. Do not open your doors. First responders are securing the building. I repeat, remain in lockdown. Do not." The intercom cut off. Static. Silence. "What does that mean?" someone whispered. "Did they catch him? Is it over?" Nobody answered. We waited. 11:15. My phone battery was at 34%. 11:28. Someone's phone died with a sad little chime. 11:47. Sirens outside. So many sirens. The whole world sounded like sirens. 12:03. The intercom crackled again. "Attention students and staff." Different voice this time. Deeper. Calmer. "This is Officer Mendez with the Jefferson Police Department. The building has been secured. The suspect is in custody. We're going to begin releasing students from lockdown classroom by classroom. Officers will knock on your door and identify themselves. Do not open the door unless you hear the all-clear signal. Your teachers have been instructed on the proper procedure. Please remain calm. You are safe. You are safe." The words didn't feel real. Nobody moved. We stayed under the desks, listening, waiting for the knock that would tell us it was over. It came 15 minutes later. 3 sharp knocks. "Jefferson PD. Room 214, we're coming in." The door opened. Light flooded the classroom. After so long in the dim shadows, it felt like staring into the sun. I squinted, blinking, trying to see. 2 police officers stood in the doorway. full tactical gear, vests, helmets, rifles held at the ready. They swept the room with their eyes, counting us. "Everyone okay in here?" one of them asked. Mrs. Chin nodded. She couldn't speak. Her hand was still covering her mouth. "We're gonna escort you out of the building. Single file. Stay together. Keep your hands visible. Do exactly what we tell you." "Understood." We nodded. Moving felt wrong. My legs didn't work right. I'd been crouched under the desk for over an hour, and when I tried to stand, my knees buckled. Marcus caught my arm, kept me upright. We filed out into the hallway. I wish I hadn't looked. I wish I'd kept my eyes down. But I looked. The hallway was destroyed. Backpacks scattered everywhere. Books torn open, pages fluttering. Smears of something dark on the floor. I told myself it was mud, someone's dirty shoes. It had to be mud, but I knew better. Lockers standing open. One of them had a dent in it, like someone had been slammed against it, or had slammed themselves against it trying to hide. Bloody handprints on the wall outside room 216. I looked away. We walked in silence, following the police officers, our hands raised slightly like we were surrendering. More officers lined the hallways at every intersection, watching us, their faces grim. Outside, the scene was chaos. Police cars everywhere, ambulances, fire trucks, news vans with satellite dishes, helicopters overhead, and parents, hundreds of parents, pressed against the barricades, screaming names, holding up phones with pictures, crying. They herded us to the football field, made us sit in rows on the bleachers while they took attendance, checked IDs, tried to match students with parents. I found my mom in the crowd. She was pushing through the barricades, shouting my name, and when she saw me, she screamed. Not with fear this time, but with relief, and the police let her through, and she was running toward me, and then her arms were around me, and she was crying, saying, "Thank God, thank God, thank God," over and over. I couldn't cry. I couldn't feel anything. I just stood there, numb, while my mom held me. The truth came out slowly, first from the police, then from the news, then from the principal in a letter sent home to all families. His name was Connor Byrne, 22 years old, not a student, not a parent, just someone who'd walked into the school through an unlocked side door near the gym. He had a gun. He'd fired it 7 times before police arrived. For students injured, 2 teachers, 1 custodian, 1 student killed. Jason Teller, the boy who'd been banging on the door, the boy who'd begged to be let in, the boy who'd been standing in the hallway when they caught Connor in the science wing, found him hiding in a supply closet, the gun on the floor beside him, his hands covered in powder residue. He wouldn't say why he did it. Still hasn't. It's been 3 months now. The school reopened after 2 weeks. They installed metal detectors, hired security guards, changed the locks on all the doors, painted over the bloodstains. They held an assembly about trauma and healing, brought in counselors, started a memorial fund for Jason. But nothing changed the one thing that mattered. The lockdown bell still sounds the same. We have drills now, twice a month. The lockdown bell rings, and we're supposed to calmly proceed to the nearest classroom and follow the established safety protocols. But every time I hear it, that sharp, stuttering buzz, I'm back in room 214. I'm back in the dark, listening to the screaming, watching shadows move under the door, waiting for the handle to turn. I can't forget the sound. The lockdown bell. The school bell that became something else that day. The school lockdown bell that meant safety and procedure and practice until the day it meant terror. The screaming. God, the screaming. I still hear it sometimes. When I'm trying to sleep, when the hallways get too crowded, when the door slams too loud. I hear Jason Teller pounding on the door of room 216, begging to be let in. I hear Mrs. Chin whispering, "Be quiet, be quiet." I hear my own heartbeat in the dark. The lockdown bell rang that day, and the screaming started, and I don't think it ever really stopped. I think some part of me is still in that classroom, waiting in the dark, listening for footsteps, wondering if the next shadow under the door will be my last. The lockdown bell changed everything. The school bell, the lockdown bell, the sound that was supposed to keep us safe. I still hear the screaming every time the bell rings, and it hasn't been the same since.